Blog Talk Radio.
Across the country and around the world, streaming live on the internet, it's Real Estate Coaching Radio, bringing you the latest news, interviews, and secrets of the top producers. Hosted by award-winning real estate coaches, Tim and Julie Harris.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Tim and Julie Harris, and this is, of course, Real Estate Coaching Radio, broadcasting live from Austin, Texas. So this is Tim and Julie Harris, and we are, of course, doing our best to give you the 100% full-strength truth, things you must know now on real estate. Maybe in a lot of cases, things that other people aren't saying, aren't talking about. We are 100% hunting down the sacred cows of real estate and really doing our best. Put counter ideas, sometimes supportive ideas, but really what we're doing our best to do is get you to think about what's best for you and your real estate business. So, Julie, welcome to the call.
Thank you very much. Always good to be here.
Now, Julie, I know you just got off the phone with a great new coaching student. I'm kind of curious, why did that person tell us about the free coaching call you did?
Well, it's interesting. We've been talking a lot about teams, you know, whether to build a team, how to build a team, big teams, small teams, the net that you may or may not end up with if you have a team. So most of our call was about how to grow his business from, you know, around 150,000 GCI a year to more like 250 per year, and who to hire when and that kind of thing. So, you know, that's always a pleasure to talk to agents who have such a great base already, and he's right here in Austin, so that's exciting as well. And, you know, we had a great discussion about keeping an eye on the bottom line and, you know, how to go about this. I always like to start with the end in mind and then backfill. So it was a great call. I'm really looking forward to, you know, our future calls together.
I think along those lines, our special guest today, Mr. Lance Kenmore, probably fits the bill better than most as someone who's been a coaching client of ours for quite a long time and has built his business up from the ground to where it is now, where he sold over 100 units, and they're tracking for over 200 units this year. So, Lance, welcome to today's radio show.
Hey, Tim. Thanks for having me. It's kind of funny to be on the opposite end of the radio show.
Oh, yeah, that's true, because you do your own. So, Lance, let our listeners know where you sell real estate, and maybe a way they could connect with you after today's radio show if they wanted to send you a referral, or just if they're looking to have a follow-up conversation. Because I'm really looking forward to today's radio show, because you really, frankly, have a fantastic story to share.
Oh, well, thanks a lot. I am located in eastern Washington State, and it's a smaller market called Tri-Cities, Washington, which is Richland, Pasco, and Kennewick. So we're kind of on the desert side of Washington State where the Columbia River comes through. Okay,
fantastic. So it was interesting in the real estate recession, now that we've kind of pulled our way out of it and we're firm believers that we're at the very beginning stages, what will be a 7 to 10 year real estate boom. But your market really acted counter to what a lot of the other parts of the country were experiencing in terms of a real estate crash. Could you tell the listeners what happened for you guys in the last 7 to 8 years and what you're anticipating for the next 7 to 8?
Sure, yeah, no problem at all. So our community, we're about 150,000 between the three cities, and we're a big nuclear energy community. So nuclear energy, a lot of government cleanup and support from the nuclear industry, and so when everybody else went through the drop, what we actually have happening is because of the cleanup, and they're building a big plant out there to clean everything up, it's the largest construction project in the nation right now. So while everybody else was, you know, trying to find jobs, we kind of had a big influx of all of those construction workers, and a lot of those higher paying jobs ended up coming to the Tri-Cities, and our funding stayed pretty solid throughout the recession. So we ended up taking a lot of that here. Plus, our wine industry's been growing, and agritourism. So all of that, it was kind of the perfect storm where we were one of the only communities that was still growing. So that fantastic growth rate of 3 to 4%, all of the sudden put us on top of all the lists in Business Week and everything.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, so while other agents have been kind of reshuffling their decks over the recession, you guys were actually increasing the number of homes you were selling and increasing the amount of money you were obviously making. So can you give us like a snapshot over the last few years how well you've done in increasing the volume in terms of units and revenue in your business? Just give us a quick snapshot, whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah, no problem. I actually, before the call, it was kind of fun. I went back and looked at all the numbers because I found Tim and Julie. I don't know the exact. I want to say 6 years is what I went back and looked at, and it's really just been a steady increase. So when I originally found Tim, it was literally like 27 deals. I think my first year. That I was serious in the business and just dying, from working too much and all the time. And then I looked at the data, and so it's just been a steady increase. I think we went 27 to 50, took a break and went to 65, and then all of a sudden made a big leap to 87. Then we went to 99 transactions, which really pissed me off because I wanted that year to be 100.
Me too.
And just couldn't get the last thing to close. And then from 99 to 123, and then last year our big milestone was 150, and that was really fun.
Well, so Julie's got a question about teams, but I'm sort of curious. In your mind, if you had to tell somebody an answer to this question in like 2 minutes or less, what would be maybe the top 1 to 3 things that you had to implement in your business, or that looking back you knew were the most critical things that you had to do in order to go essentially from 27 units to 150 units per year in only 6 years? What did you have to do to accomplish that goal?
Well, I think you have to be really disciplined. I think you have to never stop prospecting. And when I say prospecting, I think that means like obsessive lead follow-up. I mean, there's a lot of business out there. It's just who follows up to get it. So I think that was big. And then we did kind of have to shift our perspective a little bit, which was a little bit hard for me, where there is a point where you have to look at managing all of your systems and implementing systems, and I think that's what really lacked. Is we got stuck that one year, I said, at like 55 to 65, where we were just trying to figure out, man, is this really going to be possible? Because it's a lot of work right now, and I think we had to move from a mentality of deals to a mentality of systems. So, and that was like, okay, because if you're at 65 deals and just cranking away, you don't think there's any time for anything else. But we really had to switch to mentality of systems. Okay, so what automatic systems can we put in place that can manage this and run by itself? So really it was just maintaining those systems and putting those into place. And that is a big mentality shift, because it's less about the deal and more about the system that you're going to be using. And once we got those in place and realized that there was a lot of people doing over 100 deals. So, I mean, somebody knows how to do it, right? Because, I'd go to these conferences and look around. There's a lot of really smart people doing over 100 deals, and it's just a matter of looking at their systems.
Lance, can you talk a little bit about how your team is set up? Who's on your team? What do they do?
Sure. We've got so I'm the lead listing agent, and then we've got a listing coordinator who is responsible. We've been carrying an average of about 45 listings, and so our listing coordinator is responsible for placing marketing, working with me to see where those homes need to be marketed. Everything from restocking flyer boxes to helping clients that need changes on websites, just really all maintenance of our listings, feedback. So she helps maintain that inventory. And then we have a closing agent that handles everything from contract to close. So once I finish negotiating, those deals go to her, and she handles everything from contract to close. And then 2 buyer's agents that follow up on all the buyer leads from our inventory.
So, Lance, Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Kind of lucky. The most important position is I was, after we got past 85, I do work with my wife. She doesn't interact with clients, but she manages everything on the back end from websites to business billing and making sure we keep the doors open.
So we know Karen, and I think I can say this safely, that Karen really focuses on the bottom line and your guys' net. So when you're making business decisions, Lance, and this is something that I know you've been very, very deliberate and careful in adding staff, watching overhead. We're going to talk about some of your best, like I'm going to ask you the next question is about your best 3 lead generation systems. But when I say net profit, what does that mean to you?
Well, that means what I have left to buy the things I want to buy. So when I want a new flagpole at the house, Karen, shows me how much needs to be in that account for me to get my flagpole.
I think that's fine.
Net profit. I mean, that's really what we take home to our household. I mean, that's really, when it leaves the business, all the bills are paid within the business, and that is the check that goes to my house in a separate account, and that's what's left after taxes and savings.
Do you find it a challenge to focus on the net when it's so tempting to spend money on lots of other things in your business? I mean, is that a constant challenge, or are you very clear on what works and what doesn't at this point?
Well, at this point I am, but that is definitely evolved. I would say 4 years ago I was a real wild card when it came to that, and I think that is something that we really had to focus on. I mean, one of the things that we do in coaching, with you and Julie, is that I love the business plan, because the business plan you guys do is very different than other ones that I see, because at the end of the business plan we do with you guys, we're forced to then add in how much it costs for your savings. So if you want to have $60,000 in savings, we add that to the bottom of the business plan as an expense, and then the taxes at the 35%, and then you have your trips like that you want to do, or your flagpoles you want to buy, or home theater. So you add all that in so you take your goals from your goal sheet and you add that to the business plan, and then what happens is when at the end of that, I think it's always shocking. Like, if I truly want to accomplish all my goals, there it is very numerically, and that is a big different way to look at a business plan, because you got to make a lot of money to make all that happen, and that means you got to go to work.
Well, so most agents are trained to basically, you save what's left, and if you treat your savings, your net, as what's left, there won't be anything left, because surprisingly enough, there'll be all kinds of little black holes that will happily take your money away. All kinds of, silver bullets and other things that'll seem like a great idea at the time, but, you'll find out after you spent thousands of dollars on them that it was a thorough waste of time, energy, and opportunity. So speaking of marketing and lead generation, all that good stuff, if you could only do, I'm going to make it hard on you, 3 things to lead generate, and you had to stop doing everything else, what would they be?
Oh, if I could only do 3 things to lead generate.
I'm sorry, Lance. To generate listing leads. We don't, let's just focus on listing leads.
Right.
To generate, yes.
To generate listing leads. The number one thing I would do is I would continue to mail and call and stay in touch with my database. We do a big amount of sphere business. I've been in the community a long time, know a lot of people in the community, so I know it sounds crazy to say mail, but it's really the calls and the activities. But my top producer database is just gold. So calling and mailing and staying in touch with that database, hands down, is like the number one thing I can't do without.
That's something that doesn't require a whole heck of a lot of money, but it does require focus, that's for sure. Anything else? Anything else that really works to generate listing leads? Remember your coach's list.
The next biggest thing, I guess, and part of that that I figure into that is past clients, and with the listings, our past clients generate us so many referrals. So I separate it into two. Like Sphere is the direct Sphere that you do business with, and then Sphere referrals are all of our referrals that come from that. And so the past client and the Sphere referrals are huge. I then also, I can't ignore, and Julie's just going to beat me up about this afterwards, because I built my business through expireds, and I just think you can't ignore that. As far as like the easiest listings to get, have to come from expireds and for sale by owners. And that's how I built my business, was just relentlessly calling those folks.
And you are still not doing that.
Yeah.
Well, I am, but now I've gotten to the point where my most recent addition, and I didn't list him off, but how we're going from 150 to 200 is I now have a listing partner that I've trained to work those. And so it feels great, because it's just like putting on, an old pair of tennis shoes that fit just right. I mean, we're just hammering for sale by owners and expireds now to go from 150 to 200 deals this year, and it just feels awesome.
Cool. Julie?
So what else? I mean, it's one thing to do 150, but to jump from 150 to 200, we've got the listing partner that you just mentioned.
Yep.
What are a couple of other things that are going to make the difference to make that leap, to make sure that we meet or exceed the 200?
The third thing for me too is one of my systems is radio, and I just it's a big part of our business now. It wasn't when I first started, but over the last 4 years, it's become a big part of our business. So I have my own radio show. We were able to negotiate that I have a local AM radio show that I host every Saturday morning, and that's really branded us as an expert, a local area expert. We have experts. We have the mayors of the cities on the show, government officials, first-time home buyer programs. And so that has allowed us to really expand our reach in our community. And so hosting that radio show along with my radio ads would be number 3. Those are the 3 right there, and radio's the third.
Perfect. Julie, you had another question, I see?
Well, actually, I was going to ask you, I've had a lot of agents talking about new construction, and you've had a lot of success with builders. Can you talk a little bit about how you have been able to monetize that in your business?
Yeah, definitely, and that's something that I missed out on the first, I would say the first couple of years, is having that new construction piece of your business. I always hesitated to go there, because what I saw happening was I saw a lot of agents that they would go there and they would hook up with a builder like that, and they would do 60 transactions in 2 years, and then they would get fired. And then they would do like 6 the next year. And so that always was a fear that I had, and I said, I'm never going to let one person dictate my business practices. So I was always more the for sale by owner expireds. And so I ignored that for the first couple of years, and then Julie and I talked about it through coaching. And she said, you know what, you're to the point now where you're big enough. If you take on a builder and do a really good job with that builder, you're probably not going to get fired. And number 2 is it won't be such a large portion of your business that if you do lose it, that it's not going to crush you. So I agreed to look into it, and it's really been fantastic for us. And I should have done it 2 years sooner. But like I said, I had that fear of doing that I had to be coached out of. So, we've got a great builder, medium-sized production builder. I guess we would call it semi-custom here, and that we're doing about 20 transactions with a year. And it just really opened up a lot. It gave my buyer's agents a lot of leads from new construction. It's 20, guaranteed transactions for us. And then I've just started to learn that part of the industry. You're also then, when you really become a partner with that builder, and somebody they don't want to fire, and you give them great value and great advice, your transactions are multiplying, because now what we're doing is we're working with him on the front end of lot acquisition. So when we're going into these developments and we're buying, 10 lots, you're getting 10 lot sales on the front end, and then you're putting specs on all of those, and you're getting 10 specs coming on those lots. And then even if you do a bad job from those 10 lots, you should get 4 listings of people buying those new construction's house. So even if you get 4 out of those 10, I think that right there off of those 10 lots, you got 24 sides.
Yeah, it is amazing how often. Well, you said 2 things, right? You said, Julie just reminded me, spokes. So you had to have other spokes in place, other sources of business before you felt comfortable adding a builder, because a builder can be a great spoke, but it also can be a black hole. The other thing I heard you say, and this is something all the listeners should be paying very close attention to, is never think of one sale as one sale. There's almost always more transactions to be had if you pay attention. So this is a question that Julie actually wrote down that she wanted to ask, because I guess this is something you guys have worked on in your coaching. So life, work, family balance. What does balance mean to you? Because you guys have a farm business, you have car washes, you have your real estate team, you obviously have a growing family. So is balance a myth, or what does that mean with you?
Well, I think I laugh. I see all the headlines out there and stuff that I see from different places about how much you should work and balance. I definitely think balance is achievable, but for us, it comes in spurts. I'm big into time blocking. I guess that's one thing I've learned is you've got to have 2 hours for calls, that you're only doing calls. You can't multitask and do 20 things at once and be great. And in fact, I think the big trend right now is, the last book I read by Gary Keller was the one thing, and focusing on the one thing. Well, I think a lot of that stems from time blocking and really being focused on one thing. Well, we've kind of done that with our balance, meaning that I think we're out of balance all the time, but in specific areas. So, for instance, if we know that April and May are big sales months, then why not be just completely 100% focused on sales and going with the tidal wave during those months? And so one of the things we used to do is the first couple of years in the business for me, I used to work really hard. Like, I came from a farm, so I came off a farm, and for me, work is, 16 to 18-hour days, and if it's not that, I don't even think you should talk about it. So I kind of came from that mentality to work hard all year. In the first couple of years, I just remember July for me was always just crazy. I would work hard, bust it, just beat my head against the wall, and get like 3 or 4 sales in July. And so finally we just decided, with coaching and stuff, we're like, why don't you just do 15 in April or 20 in April, and then just take July off, because everybody else takes July off too. They're all on vacations. They're not going to make any decisions. And so, we focus really hard on a couple months a year, and then we'll focus really hard on our family, July, August, September, and, throw in December. We don't work very much anymore. So a lot of it just comes to, in your business plan, focusing on where you want to be. So for me, we have our goal. Well, my goal is 75% August 1. So I want to be at 75% of goal August 1. And so the months leading up to that, we work really hard, and then we take some time off after that to recover.
Well, it's to bring this back to farming, make hay while the sun's shining, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so we've just kind of adjusted that over the years to what works for our market. But there are times when I would definitely say we're out of balance. But when I sit down and put it out on a calendar and look at all the days worked, it's great. I rarely work. I rarely work on Saturdays anymore. I would almost hesitate to say never, but on Sundays, and it's just adjusted over the years, and we're very efficient Monday through Friday.
So a lot of the guys listening now, the agents out there that are listening, and remember, guys, you can always go to freecoachingcallsforagents.com if you want to schedule a free coaching call. But a lot of them are existing students or they're folks that are thinking about getting into coaching. So a question for you, what has coaching meant to you? So looking back again the past 6 years that you've been with us in one incarnation or another, what has it meant to you in your business?
I mean, I hesitate to say everything. I mean, it's a game changer. It's it's kind of like a life changer. I mean, really, I did 27 deals my first year out of pure guts, and just working all the time, but it wasn't fun. Maybe headed to divorce, working all the time. And so, I had to find a better way. So for me, it's that, and I still need accountability. There might be other people out there stronger or able to do it themselves, but I'm probably not one of them. So, I definitely need a fresh perspective and accountability. And I like how somebody else can look at a situation. I might not agree with it, but probably show me a better way that usually ends up with better results. So for me, we live a fantastic life, and it's just, it really is. I would say, I'm going to say 60, 70, 75% of it is through a structured coaching. I haven't been without a coach, and I think I would probably go, I wouldn't go 2 weeks without one.
Well, Lance, I'm going to give you, I appreciate that. Certainly nice to hear, but I'll give you the credit back. I know, Julie would agree with me. You're very coachable, right? You've been very focused on what matters most in your life, and there really hasn't ever been a time where you got too far off track. You're hardworking, and the other thing I hear, which I admire, which I wish more agents had a little dose of, is humility. When you're speaking, you're being honest. You're really resonating like every other top producer that we've ever coached, and that's kind of an interesting little personality characteristic that everyone listening, I hope you're paying attention to, because humility, knowing where you're strong, knowing where you can improve, is critical in your success. Because as Lance said, everybody needs outside accountability at some level. You think you might not have it because you don't have a coach, or maybe your ego is telling you don't need it. But the reality of us is that all of us have outside accountability, whether we call it a coach or not. We have bills to pay. We're accountable to those. We're accountable to our family. We're accountable to our clients. We're accountable across the board. So you're basically accountable no matter what you do or what what direction you go in your business. So why not be accountable to the things in your life that you want to accomplish in your life? Why not prioritize your goals? Why not, instead of just going wherever the strongest breeze blows you, why don't you decide that you're going to set the course of your life and your business in the direction that you want it to go? Take responsibility for your future and recognize the fact that, honestly, guys, whatever you set your mind to, whatever you decide you want your future to be for you and your family, you can do it. It's just a step-by-step process. It's not an overnight thing. There are no silver bullets. And I love what Lance said about hard work, because, guys, that's it. It's going to take hard work to get to Lance's level, and Lance is going to hopefully eclipse 200 homes this year in terms of units sold, be one of the nation's top producing agents. To get to that level, it's going to have taken him 7 years to go from 26 homes to 200 homes. So it's going to take some time. That's life. That's what makes the journey, I think, more interesting. Julie, do you have any other questions as we come to the end of today's show?
What I love about Lance and Karen is that they do actually start with the end in mind. I don't think that I have ever had a call where I thought to myself, these guys sound like they're hitting some complacency or lack of momentum. The thing that I like about you and Lance and Karen, lots of things, but you are always moving forward and thinking ahead. There's never this sense of like, all right, well, I already know everything. We can stagnate and coast for a while. You guys actually plan out your year week by week, and you're not just great goal setters, you're great goal achievers, and that's why we hold you guys out to all of our listeners that it can be done. And you guys don't have 17 people on your team doing it. You figured out how to be super ultra efficient. So our job as your coaches is to keep you moving forward to whatever that next level is in the least painful way to you guys possible. But it does take a very coachable partnership that you have with Karen. So we're just super proud of you guys.
Thanks, and I think one last thing I thought of when you guys were saying all that too is is what really changed us, and Tim worked with us on this years, is there's that, and I don't even remember who the quote is by, I apologize, but it was that your average income is that of the 5 people, your 5 closest people to you that you hang around with and take counsel from. And I remember looking at that and saying, oh, my gosh, I've got to find people that are doing way more than me. And that's what I'm doing right now. I always think, when we have these calls, I probably shouldn't be on this call because the 4 or 5 guys that I'm hanging around with now and clawing to hang around with are doing, 250, 300. And so I think I've always been focused on finding a way to mastermind, meet with, go to conferences, talk to Tim, have Tim introduce me to the next level of guys, and then try to get, around them and figure out what they're doing. And so that masterminding is number 4, Tim. Thank you. You only gave me 3. If I said number 4, it'd be masterminds.
There you go. Well, so one last question, Lance. This is kind of a far-out question. 5 years from now, you, Karen, your great kids, your business, all the businesses that you're developing, where do you see yourself? What does that look like?
Well, that's funny because I know exactly what it looks like because it's in my 5-year vision. So one of the things I had to do about 9 months ago was write the 5-year vision and where we were at. So I primarily know exactly what it looks like. I'm going to grow the team a couple more levels. There's a few more systems to implement, but really I want to get the team to where it's basically doing around 300 deals a year, and it's running with my input about 3 days a week is what I'm trying to get to. And then I'll have 2 other businesses with passive income levels that are contributing, a couple $100,000 a year passively from those other businesses. So my goal is to get to the point where 3 days a week of my lead generation and management is running the real estate business at 300 deals a year. The other 2 days a week are maintaining the passive income of a couple $100,000, and that really frees me up to an amazing lifestyle and more chances to invest in businesses. I love businesses and love real estate, but that's where I'm at because that'll be my last 4 years with my kids, and I just want to make sure that we can do whatever they want to do. My parents supported me heavily when I got started. I'm still involved in the family business with my dad and farming. I just want to make sure I can do that for my kids and spend a lot of time with them the last 4 or 5 years I get them in the house.
So I said that was going to be the last question, but I just thought of another one. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
So Lance, why you? In a market that's highly competitive, in an industry that's unbelievably turbulent right now, with all the headwinds that have been at every turn of the road for real estate, why you? Why have you been so successful where many other agents have struggled?
It sounds so easy and cliche, but it's just goal setting and vision. I think taking the time to really think about where we're going, setting those goals, having the vision to set those goals, and then being accountable. And I guess I say it sounds easy, but it's not easy. Tim, it took you 2 years for us to think big. I was pretty small-town farm boy, didn't really know much different. And so I guess I say it's easy, but it took 2 years to get me to think like that. And then once we were thinking like that, Julie had to straighten us out. So on how to do it.
I sent you to the principal's office. The finishing school.
I think it really comes down to, and I'm using the same thing with my kids. We still do dream boards every year, and people come to my house and they're like, "Wow, what's that in your office?" And they always laugh a little bit and think it's a little cheesy, but it's funny because every year I'm changing out pictures off of that board that came true and putting up new pictures. So my kids have vision boards now. My kids do affirmations. I think just getting your mind in the right place, because really, there's a lot of real estate agents, right? I don't even know, a couple million in the U.S., right? So everybody can do a transaction, so it must not be doing transactions. But it's got to be putting the vision together and then being accountable to the goals and the vision.
Yeah, it's one step after another. And I appreciate you being so honest with your answer, because so often agents will be delusional that there's some sort of secret sauce. But at the end of the day, it's hard work. It's setting the course, using an organized plan, and basically sticking to it no matter what. Working when you don't want to work at the highest level is what is sort of your maybe unofficial mantra, working when you don't want to work at the highest level, or more importantly, working when you don't want to work at the highest level while others aren't working. These are all the little types of things that you guys don't hear at the listeners. Many of you won't hear any other place because it's not fashionable to say success comes from hard work. I don't know. In the industry, it's not even trendy, because people want to, I don't want to say lie, but they definitely want to put on a story, spin a tale about how they have all these little secrets and the team's off doing all this work for them, and they can just sit around and pick the lint out of their toes. But at the end of the day, guys, if you truly want to excel in the real estate industry, it really, really does come down to hard work. Julie, you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, that's basically it. It's actually thinking and being present about what you want out of life, and then figuring out how you're going to get it. And I think too many agents do it completely the other way around, and they have the thought, if there's anything left, then maybe I'll have some fun in life. And Lance and Karen never think that way. I never once really, at least past the first couple of years, I never hear that kind of, I don't think that ever would even cross your mind, well, I guess if there's something left. You guys actually live life on purpose, and I think that's the most exciting thing about coaching you guys. Is I believe that your 5-year vision, I know that you'll do it. I don't have any doubt about it, and I know you don't either. That's exciting.
And I think it was either Vanderbilt's or it was in Benjamin Franklin's biography where one of those guys, they took like half a day every Sunday just to dark room, map out, revisit their vision and stuff. I don't even come close to that. I'm lucky if I get, 2 hours a week, to do that type of stuff. Imagine where I could go if I actually spent half a day every week doing it.
Just write it down for your coaching homework, by the way.
Well, actually, I was thinking maybe, Billy, you need to set some goals with Lance so he can get his flagpole.
Okay. I got to do this thing.
But see, it's the little things for me, it really is.
Absolutely. By the way, thanks for the wonderful presents for Zoe. That was very nice of you and Karen.
Yes, I'm going to send you a picture so you can wear her John Deere outfit now. She's big enough.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate everything you've done for us.
Of course.
So everyone, thank you for listening today, and Lance and Karen, hopefully you're listening, and all your all your staff and everyone else. I really appreciate you guys participating in our coaching programs. It's truly an honor to have been your coaches. You guys inspire us as much as hopefully we inspire you. Everyone who's listening, everyone who's had a coach, everyone who's interested in coaching, why don't you take the next natural step and just request a free coaching call? Free coaching calls for agents.com. Julie and I are on the roster. We're usually scheduled up at least a week in advance. But do yourself a favor and request a free coaching call. And let's see if we can have you on the radio show in the not-too-distant future sharing your success story. So, Lance, thanks for your time today. And everyone listening, live and in replay, we'll talk with you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
This program has been a presentation by Tim and Julie Harris, Real Estate Coaching. For more information on our real estate coaching and training programs, visit our website at timandjulieharris.com. Remember to tune in weekdays at noon for upcoming shows, and until next time, thank you for listening to Real Estate Coaching Radio with Tim and Julie Harris.